Hello, and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, Lindsay White. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build really high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and businesses thrive. And the Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about the journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. I'm challenging each of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz, and during the episode, we'll be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. If you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and want some of my top tips to help you lead more effectively, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to highvoltageleadership.ca and click on the button at the top of the page that says Take the Quiz. You can share your results, connect with our guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at highvoltleadership. My guest on this week's episode is Debbie Rosemont. Debbie is a productivity consultant and founder of Simply Placed, and she helps women like you and me who feel overwhelmed and overloaded prioritize what really matters. Debbie believes strongly in creating work-life harmony so that we can blend together all of the things we care about most in our business and in our life. And she believes that we really can have it all, just not all at the same time. And it's the choices we make that make all the difference. I know you'll really enjoy my conversation with Debbie today. Hey, welcome, Debbie, to the Female Founder Friday podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here on the show today.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. Debbie, I always love to ask my guests about their journey to building their business and to becoming a female founder. And I know you have a really rich story, so I hope you share some of that with us today.
Yeah, I'd love to. I have been in business for myself. I became a female founder about 20 years ago, and it's hard for me to believe it's been 2 decades, but I came out of corporate America, where I had spent about 10 years in human resources working for a large financial services institution. I loved that career, and I wanted to find more work-life harmony in my life, as I had a young child at the time and was preparing to have another. So, two little kids. I wanted more control over my schedule selfishly, but I also wanted to continue to lead and contribute in a meaningful way to people at work. So I started my business, Simply Placed, in 2003. And I did so because people had said, you're good at this, that, and the other. Have you thought about doing that for a living? And I thought, all right, this might be a good fit of taking something that I am good at, monetizing it, and being of service to other people while being able to say yes to the volunteer opportunities I wanted to at the kids' school and not miss a baseball game and all that. So it was that really led me to start the business.
I love that. And what I hear in all of that is a real grounding in your own values, like what's really important to me as I am a mother and becoming a mother again. I think that even heightens that. But also in terms of, you use the word service and leadership. And so still not giving up one important value for the others.
Right.
Because I think sometimes we have a tendency to do that when we become mothers. Our family value and our value around how we mother can become all consuming, and we give up everything else.
Right.
And that's problematic in other ways, but you kept a focus on all of those pieces, and I really love that.
Thank you. Yeah, and it hasn't always been perfect, that's for sure. But gosh, it's been such a great journey, and I really wouldn't change becoming a female founder. I love that my kids, as they grew up, saw me grow this business, and to be a woman leader of a team and to make an impact in the lives of those we serve. I've loved that that's been part of what they've seen from their mom.
Yeah, that is such a great point. I think that it can be incredibly valuable for our kids to see us as working moms, creating something that we feel very passionate about, building something that's really valuable, both monetarily and intrinsically,
Right.
and being proud, present leaders in our business, but also with our family.
I agree. And you said adhering to values or honoring values when we make choices in work and in life. And I mean, that's part of what I work with my clients on too, as a productivity consultant is, all right, if you want to be more productive, doing what? What's most important to you?
Yes.
And it isn't always about work, right?
Yeah.
So that's been something that's important, not only to, to help other people with, but to model and do for myself as well.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and I think that is such important foundational work. I mean, I work a lot with female founders, supporting them as leaders and supporting their teams to become those high performing, inspired workplaces. And in all of that, there has to be a solid foundation and focus on what are the important values and how do we bring those values to life in the work we do, in the relationships we have, in the services we create or the products we sell. How do we bring those values into reality, not just kind of leave them on the wall, as they say, right?
For sure. Live them.
Live them, live into them, embrace them, build boundaries around them.
Yes.
Right. And I also want to ask you, you use the phrase work-life harmony, which I love. I talk about something I think that is similar, but tell us what that is from your perspective.
I do use that term. I use that and I use work-life integration. And I use those as an alternative to work-life balance, which is a very common used phrase. And the reason that I choose the others over work-life balance is that work-life balance to me indicates that things are of equal weight, equal on a scale. And what I found to be true is that in reality, sometimes work is heavier and we need to, give it more time, energy, attention, and maybe let a little something go on the personal side or the life side. And sometimes the opposite is true. Maybe we have a health crisis or a family member that needs us, and we have to find ways to let up a bit on work. And so I feel like this flow or this, if we can achieve some harmony of what naturally happens, that's where we want to be, rather than trying to force these to be equal weight, because that's really, really hard to achieve.
Yeah, I love the way you describe that, because you're right, that balance piece, it's a very prevalent phrase. You have to have work-life balance. What I always find interesting when I hear that, on the morning news, you've got some lifestyle guru, oh, work-life balance. What even is that? Like, that was my sort of first reaction. Like, what is she talking about? And you're right. Balance, Millie, means like scales, like everything weights out the same.
Right.
That's just not real life, is it?
It's not. It's not
after that.
Yeah. I mean, we might have it for a hot second, but not for long. So yeah.
And then the school calls and your kid's throwing up.
Yes.
Or your dog poops in the hallway, or the vendor calls and the shipment's late, or a team member calls and like the client's losing their mind. Like it's like a split second of balance. And then I think that leaves us as female founders. Often we're mothers. We've got other important relationships, whether we're partners or sisters, or it leaves us feeling like we're not enough, that we can't handle it all. That it somehow is a deficiency in us and our ability to deal with it. Yeah, I love it.
There's a phrase I heard some time ago that, says, we can have it all, just not all at the same time.
Bingo.
So we're constantly making choices, right? Again, I think about time, energy, attention. Those are the resources that we have to spend. And we only have so much time, right? There's a definite 24 hours in the day and there's nothing I could do to give anybody a 25th hour, I might be able to help them look at how they're spending their time.
Yes.
Maximizing their energy and their attention is probably going to get them farther rather than trying to eke out, an extra minute. So that's definitely, we can have it all, just not all at the same time. We have to make choices.
You know what? It's true. And we always are in choice. We always have the power to make the decision. Sometimes we give up that power. Sometimes we don't realize we have the power. We always have the power. And I know that that's a big part of what you do as a productivity consultant, is really empower people to make those great choices.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, even as simple as the things that we say yes to, and I think about my people pleasing clients in particular, they want to say yes to everything. Yeah, I'm right there too.
I am a card carrying member. I am the president of that club.
Yes. Yes. So, one of the things that you can keep in mind, just like I need to as well, is that every time we say yes to something or somebody, we're inevitably saying no to something else. Again, back to that, we can do it all, just not at the same time. So if I say yes to an extra project today, I might be saying no to finishing work in the time that I thought I would and having dinner with my family at the time I thought I could do that. So every time we say yes to something, we are saying no to something else. There's choices, trade-offs, but choices sounds more empowering than trade-off, right? Like, I'm going to choose. And when we tell ourselves that, I'm going to choose this so that, or, for this reason. And when that can tie back to our values, when we have that compelling why to guide our choices, it just becomes easier and it feels better.
Yeah, I truly am a card carrying member of the People Pleaser Club. That is a big part of who I am. And I've come to accept that actually some of that is what makes me great, because I am a translator. I can bring together all sorts of people and create harmony. However, what I can't do is do that and at the sacrifice of my own happiness. That doesn't work. Like right there is the choice point.
Yeah.
But you'd be so proud of me, Debbie. I actually had a very difficult choice to make earlier this week. A request by someone I care deeply about for time and space. And what I had to do was recognize that my own need for that time and space was actually more important than their need. And I had to say no to something that I really hated saying no to. Like, it was really difficult for me, but I had to recognize that my own needs right there were actually paramount, and that there were other ways I could meet the needs of that human that didn't mean sacrificing mine. And it was so hard. Oh my God.
Yes.
But I felt really powerful after, and I felt like that was a really good decision.
Yeah, I think, we have to, again, back to that, managing our own energy, honoring our boundaries so that we can show up as our best selves and be in service. Just a tip, if it's helpful to you, to your listeners, to any people pleasers out there, no is a complete sentence. So you absolutely can use that as a time management strategy. However, I also love the yes and response. So it's really a conditional yes. So instead of, as a people pleaser, I used to just knee-jerk reaction, say yes to everything. I wanted to please, but that got me in trouble. So I had to slow my roll and think about, all right, if I were to say yes to this, what would make it work for that person and for me? And it's a conditional yes. So yes, Lindsay, I can help you with that. And I'd be able to start that in August. Would that work for you? So it's a way to say yes, but it's not necessarily a yes in the way that the person's asking. So, no, I can't do that today is one response, but what if it worked for that person for the work to wait till August? So yes, and.
It's not the unequivocal yes, which for people pleasers means, yes, I will give you everything I have until I have, my cup is empty.
Right.
So I use yes and a lot, because I think it validates the request or the idea and then enables a space to build or grow or negotiate
Right.
which is really important, as opposed to my own personal philosophy, which used to be say yes and figure it out later. Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the truth is it leaves you feeling burnt out, stressed out, depleted, and actually resentful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is helpful too for those that have bosses or managers that are asking for things. Sometimes those leaders forget all that we have on our plate.
Right.
So this also can be a, yes, I'm happy to take that on. And can you help me understand which of these other things should shift in priority? Like, this is what I had planned to work on. You know, as leader, can you help me readjust here?
Yeah.
So that it's not a no, I can't do that. I'm already, you know, my plate's full. Yep, full plate. What should come off in order to add that in, if that's what should happen?
Yeah. I think that that's a valuable conversation, whether you have it with a manager or a leader, or whether you have it with yourself.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. Yep.
Like you can negotiate priorities in your own life, in your own business. You can have that conversation with your team.
Ah.
How do we reorchestrate this?
Right.
What do we need to prioritize? What needs to go away completely? And we need to ask those questions on a regular basis, no matter what size our team or our business. Because sometimes we end up doing a lot of things that we have no business doing when we just do them because we always done them.
Right.
So I love that conversation can happen in a variety of spaces. Fantastic. Okay. So now I would love to know 20 years in business, which like, what a milestone. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. It's officially next February will be 20 years, but we're almost there. So
still
rounding up.
That's a huge milestone. I'm sure there are probably a myriad of answers to this question, but where have you made some mistakes or, along the way? And what have you learned from those?
You know, I think the biggest over time, as I look back and think about what would I have done differently, or where could I have saved some stress or heartache, I think not delegating earlier than I did. So trying to do everything myself, wearing all the hats, thinking if it was going to be done right, I better do it myself, or I didn't have the resources to outsource or to ask for help, or I wasn't strong if I had to ask for help. Those would be the biggest mistakes, especially, relatively early on. So if I could roll back the clock and, were to start again, I would ask for help sooner. I think it takes courage and strength to ask for help. I think those are good qualities. So I would ask for help earlier. I would have identified things that someone else could have done for me to free up time for me to spend on the priorities and things only I could do. And I guess that rolls into a lesson learned as well, is that, and time management strategy is delegation. It is letting go of something that someone else could do for you to protect and free up your time to do the things that only you can do. So knowing what those things are, and then letting go of other things that either don't need to be done or could be done by someone else. That's definitely a lesson learned. And then the managing energy and attention versus trying to manage time as a productivity consultant and coach, but also as a business owner, mother, wife, friend, sister, that's all wrapped up in that too. That if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't manage our energy, we will burn out, we will get sick, we will not be able to do the things we want to do. And that's also a lesson learned over time. For sure.
I am so deeply connecting to that right now, Debbie, because I feel like I am snuggling right up close to some burnout. I'm seeing some signs for myself. And I wouldn't have labeled it that way. So I'm really glad you said, managing the energy and attention. I think that's what I have been starting to do, is really notice my energy. And actually really recognizing that it's getting kind of low. And when do I have more energy? When do I have less? Really listening to my body about, I don't have anything left to give today. I'm going to have to shut it down.
Yep.
Got to go do something different.
Right.
But I really love the way you phrase that, because you're right. We cannot pour from a cup that is empty.
No, it's true. It's true. Yeah. I think that, again, that old adage, and it sounds very cliche, but we hear it every time we fly: put your own oxygen mask on first, and then you can help those around you. We have to do that. We have to.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's the perfect metaphor, is really the truth, because if you don't have oxygen, you can't help the person beside you survive the plane crash, right? But it does make sense. But I love the focus on energy and attention. What do I have capacity for? Not just what do I have time for?
Right.
That's brilliant. And I hear you loud and clear. And I actually hear a lot from clients and even colleagues right now, that delegation, right, is something I wish I had hired sooner. I wish I had been better able to let go earlier in my business, that I didn't actually have to do it all. I maybe thought I thought I was better than I was. Like, I thought I could handle it all.
Right.
Right. Like I've really, that's really been a theme coming out. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think for the listeners of this show, it's important to help them recognize that you're trying to do it all. And in fact, you're just not that good. Like, you can't be good at everything. It's not humanly possible.
Right.
Right. And so what do you need to be doing? What do you love to do? What are you really good at? Where's that intersection, that zone of genius?
Right.
And what are you not great at? And how can you find someone who is great at that and passionate about doing it to help you do it faster, more effectively, more beautifully, whatever that needs to be?
Agreed.
Yeah. And we tend to hang on to that stuff way longer than we should, don't we, Debbie?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so freeing. It's so freeing once you let it go.
Right. Yeah.
That's a beautiful feeling. Okay. So Debbie has taken my leadership style quiz, and that's what we're going to talk about next, is what kind of leadership style she has. And after, a fairly long career in business in general, I'm interested in this conversation. If you want to know what your leadership style is, and you want some of my best tips that you can use right away to be a more effective leader, you can find a link to the quiz in the show notes. You can also go to highvoltageleadership.ca, and there's a button there that says take the quiz, and you can find out what your style is in just a couple minutes. You can, see if your style lines up with Debbie's. You can send a comment if you want to chat about your style. So Debbie, tell us what's your leadership style, and what does that mean for you?
Yeah, so mine was deemed to be supportive, which I think that resonates. In answering the questions, there were some that tapped in on, how much do you involve your team? How much decision making rope do you give? Those kinds of things. And I think the supportive label, if you will, or type, definitely does speak to who I am and how I lead. I've been told that I have a calm presence and a calm style, and that I'm approachable, and those are all things I want. I'm glad to hear are said, because I really, as a leader over the years, have aimed to, I love personal and professional development myself, and I also love to help others reach their potential. So to be able to find ways to empower, to develop others, and to maximize their potential on a team, and so that they can leverage their energy and their time and attention, that spoke to me. I enjoyed the quiz because when you get your results, it gives you a few tips and things that you could do given your leadership style. And one of the ones that I got was to listen, and I think that's really important for anybody, but certainly a good leader, to be able to listen to your team. Another was to find good ways to reward performance and reward accomplishment and contribution. And then the third was to find ways to have fun. And that's one that, I can be pretty serious or pretty, pretty focused. Let's say that I can be pretty focused and kind of eye on the prize and all right, here's a priority. Let's plan this out. Let's get this done. But to take time to reward accomplishment and celebrate and then to have fun, to me, teams, when you have good relationships and you can have fun together, you clearly will get things done too. So I really appreciated those tips.
So from one HR pro to another, I really appreciate that. It's certainly validating for me. But these tips that I've included with the leadership style guide is the things that I think are, they're really important, but they're also easy to implement. You can start thinking right away about how can we have a little more fun today? What would make this, sometimes we get into these projects and they are big and heavy and we have to be focused but how can I bring a little levity to this situation? Right. And it doesn't have to be big or fancy or expensive to really add a great deal of value for people.
True. It's true.
Yeah. I'm so glad you enjoyed the quiz. It's meant to be fun. There's meant to be some fun and some playfulness in it. And I'm so glad that came through. I really appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Debbie, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. What a wonderful conversation. We have a ton in common. So I knew it would be a great chat. And I really appreciate your perspective and this idea of this work-life harmony that we can all really choose to create. I think that's such a powerful message. So thank you so much for bringing that today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity to have a great conversation. I enjoyed it too.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram at High Volt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.